I've got a question for you. If Donald Trump becomes president and wins the election in 2024, after he takes office in 2025, will you be a worker class or a ruling class? And here's why I ask that question. Trump and the plans that are in place that will be executed if he becomes president will divide the United States into a caste system. And in that caste system will be rulers and workers. Now, don't get confused. Voting for Trump does not get you into the ruling class. Voting for Trump just gets him into office. The plan that he will execute is already in place and laid out. Project 2025 is a big part of that. So you may say, what the heck are you talking about? A worker class and a ruling class. Well, let's go to one level. Schools. Okay? One of the plans that are laid out is the execution of vouchers. Okay? The vouchers are funded with public funds, i.e., your tax money. But when the voucher system is put in place, individuals can take that voucher, that is tax money, and apply it to go to a private school. So what that does is it takes the support and the funds from the public schools and it funds them, they slowly go down in quality. One big difference. The plan says if you're in public school, at a certain point, you automatically get registered for selective service, i.e., if there's ever a draft. So the folks in the public schools become the worker class, the fighting class. The people in the private school, those kids don't have that requirement of being registered. So you already see a separation funded by you, the taxpayer who voted for Trump. So once Trump gets in office, the worker class and the ruling class is going to be a purely economic exercise. You're either above a certain line or below it. So even if you voted for him, that has no standing on you being in the ruling class. Another issue on the worker and ruling class is entitlement programs, as they are labeled, which they really are not. See, Social Security, Medicare, those trust funds are worth trillions of dollars. Those will be handed over to the investment banking and investment community. So no longer will you have like the government in charge of that. You will have private capital firms. So you'll transition to something like a 401k, IRA. What's the big fallacy with those type plans? You can go in and grab that money. It's a whole different deal. So you may end up, if you have a couple of crises along the way, with nothing to fall back on. And we'll be back in that land before Social Security existed. Now, some folks may say, well, I hear seniors all the time say, I'm on a fixed income. Well, try living on no income. That's the way it was before Social Security. When you reached the age where you no longer was productive and you couldn't work and get a paycheck, most seniors, unless they were well-heeled or their families were able to take care of them, were in abject poverty. And that's why Social Security came along, to have people something to fall back on in their older years, their so-called golden age. Okay, let's go to another one. Overtime. Overtime, in many cases, is the backbone of middle America. Without the overtime, some people wouldn't be middle class. So, it doesn't just come out and say in Project 2025 we want to get rid of overtime, but it says basically they want to get rid of some law. Guess what that law applies to? It enables overtime. Another one they want to get rid of is a law that allows unions to exist. The beauty of unions, and most people take it for granted, unions use the collective power of the worker to have some leverage against these huge employers. If you didn't have unions, there was a whole lot of things we wouldn't have nowadays, like the weekend. What do you mean? Yeah, the weekend. That's something that the unions brought about. And you recall there was a time where it didn't matter how old a kid was. They could be out there working in dangerous jobs, losing limbs, losing their lives. Well, that's back in fashion. Recently, in recent years, all kinds of operations have been busted using child labor. A lot of times that child labor was immigrant children labor. But child labor is coming back in fashion. Matter of fact, some states are rolling back their requirements of how late an underage child can work. So we're going totally backwards, almost to that MAGA dream world they're talking about. This on my hat and on my shirt, I am DEI. I use it to mean I am dedicated, educated, and intelligent. But the government term is diversity, equity, inclusion, which means that our workforces, our universities, as far as employment and all those type of things, should resemble the United States as a whole. Well, a lot of that's been struck down. Companies are running from DEI initiatives. States like Florida, they went to public universities and start firing people that were brought in under DEI programs. They fired the people that were running the DEI programs. Don't just assume that the DEI programs are for people that look like me or some other minority. Women, okay? People of different sexual orientation. All types of things will be affected as they roll that back. So just think a little deeper about this vote coming up, because you could be voting yourself right into the worker class without even knowing it.